Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Um, my name is David Heacock. I'm the CEO of FilterBuy, an air filter company. Sorry, I'm just trying to go live on TikTok. I realized I'm running a bit late today, and I did not get fully set up. So I may just go live on TikTok real quickly. Um, there we are. But I'm David Heacock, CEO of FilterBuy, the leading direct-to-consumer air filter brand, and we're on a mission to build the world's leading indoor air quality company. Um, I appreciate all of you who watched the first video in our boring business series. It seems to have gotten a decent amount of traction, which I appreciate. We just actually launched another video, or released a new video this morning on about hard work and how hard work is not always enough to find success, and maybe some other strategies you can be thinking about in terms of framing about your work and how to get more leverage out of all the actions that you take. And it doesn't always require hard work necessarily. It takes being strategic and smart about your work, which is oftentimes just as important. But one of the things, like especially when I get these kind of big videos that get a lot of traction, like this last one, it's amazing how many questions I get, both from in the comments, as well as like just external people saying to me, why is it that you are doing this? Like, what is your motivation for doing it? And I think that a lot of people are skeptical. They think that there's going to be some course for me to sell you, or some way that I ultimately monetize what I am doing. And the reality is that there are kind of three reasons I think that I have chosen to do this whole social media and influencer push. And the first is, quite frankly, that I find it really that teaching brings a tremendous amount of clarity. And I absolutely love business and entrepreneurship and everything that is related to that. And I like, I've gotten to this point mostly by trial and error, and by being an observer and a studier of everything that is business related. But it's one thing to kind of have some success through trial and error, and it's another thing to like really be able to distill and understand what are the things that underlie that success, or like what are the fundamentals that actually matter. And by going through this process of actually articulating it and sharing it with the world, and hopefully some of you on this live stream, then it actually forces me to have clarity around the things that actually do matter, and forces me to focus on those things. And so and to be true to those. And so by doing this content, and by answering your questions, or creating the content that is business related, it really is a clarifying function for me that is super valuable. And I think that allows me to be a better operator, and allows me to teach the people around me that work for me, or that I partner with, how I think, and how I think we need to be strategizing and thinking about the future. And this is a medium for me to do that. And so I'm selfishly, when I'm doing videos or thinking about content that we're going to produce and whatnot, it really really forces me to really be thoughtful about the fundamentals that I think are important, and really study them, and be honest with myself about what those are. And so by kind of teaching and sharing, then it brings me a lot of clarity. And that's super powerful, and ultimately beneficial for me and for my business. And so by doing this and kind of forcing that clarifying function, it really forces me and the people around me to be better. And so that's a huge motivation for me. That is actually my number one motivation for doing this. And that's just the truth. The second kind of motivation is, I am on a mission to build the world's leading indoor air quality company. And social media is such an important distribution for selling product, or from getting your vision and mission out to the world, right? I mean, social media is the way that you do that in 2025, certainly. And by going on this journey of figuring out how to get distribution for a personal brand around business and whatnot, forces me to really understand and study how to do that for FilterBuy on our mission of building the world's leading indoor air quality company, right? And so, a lot of what I'm spending my time on within my FilterBuy world is around that brand. I mean, we've been focused on brand from the very beginning, but we really want to be and intend to be a household name, and to really change the game of the indoor air quality industry. And to do that, social media and social media distribution is so important. And by doing this project that I'm doing and I'm undertaking, it's really forcing me to be a real practitioner of that and really understand it at a deep level, and then use those learnings for our larger mission of building the world's leading indoor air quality company. And so that's the other selfish reason why I'm doing this content. And then kind of the third reason is ultimately I just love everything about business, and I really want to see I want to see everyone that chooses to go this path. I want to give them the every opportunity that I know to be successful. And I think that the world is a better place when people are out working on their unique missions, and figuring out ways to add value, and then ultimately get that value back. And that is very important to me and my philosophy. And I do not believe that the world is a zero-sum game. I think that we have to go out and be willing to create value, and that ultimately impacts everyone that we touch. And I want to empower as many people as possible to go and find their own unique journeys and live them. And I want to be an advocate and a supporter for that, and ultimately build a community around other like-minded people to do that. And I do anticipate ultimately partnering or purchasing businesses that from like-minded founders that maybe want to move on and do something else. And so the acquisition piece is definitely important for me, but I really want to build a community of other like-minded people that are builders, that want to go out and actually build things. And I think that it's so easy in 2025 to just get sucked into the hype of AI, or AI taking all of our jobs and all this kind of technological change. But like, the reality is that the vast majority of the economy and the vast majority of opportunities for entrepreneurs are tangible, real world things that are not going to go away. You think about you think about food, you think about like all the supply chain and CPG around the food that is in the grocery stores, and the products that are in grocery stores, or you think about all the services and the trades, and you think about all the ways that technology is ultimately going to allow us to run more efficient real world businesses, and all of the opportunities that brings. Ultimately, that takes people, that takes builders to go out and to do these opportunities, and I want to be a kind of I want to build a community around that, and around people that are inclined to go out there and do and build things and grow. And I am going to share all of my learnings along the way. I think if you want to go from being a tradesperson to owning a multi-million-dollar business, I have a playbook that I understand pretty well, that I think can help you to do that. If you want to take that multi-million-dollar business and turn it into a tens of millions of dollar business, there's a playbook that you can take those exact same skills and move up to that. And I want to be able to facilitate in helping people to learn to do that. If you want to go from that tens of millions of dollar a year business to $100 million plus business. I've done that, and I want to be able to help you with the playbook of doing that. And then publicly, I am out there building from a multi-$100 million business into a multi-billion-dollar business, and I'm committed to documenting and sharing that journey and those lessons along the way. And hopefully, if you want to take that journey and do it alongside me, then we can learn from each other. And that's ultimately the third reason why I'm going on this content journey. And I don't know exactly where it will take us, but it's something that I'm very much committed to and passionate about and excited about. But with that, we will go on to answering questions. And just so like, why do I do these live streams? And sometimes to not even that many people. Well, for me, I'm very curious to understand the types of questions that people have, or the types of things people are interested in, and this is a real great way for us to kind of check the pulse of that. And then my team will uses these videos to then ultimately inform other larger topics that we do deeper dive, that are more packaged for broader distribution in our long form content. And so they can kind of take the ideas that from your questions and from how I answered them. They can see the things I'm more passionate about and the things I'm less passionate about, that we kind of lean into it, and then also just get a feel for what you all are really interested in and what you want to know about. And this live stream gives us a great medium for doing that, and that's really why we do this, and why I'm committed to doing this every week, and I quite enjoy it. But it's something that it is something that's kind of unstructured, and we're doing it for that kind of idea generation. And if we can only help one person get a little clarity around something that they've been struggling with in an hour, then that's more than enough for me. And so I encourage you to ask your questions, and in your questions, even if you think they you may be worried that they're silly, I promise there are no silly no silly questions. I will just do my best to answer them in a way that the most people hopefully can get some help and learnings from it. So with that, Michael, let's go on to the first question of the day. Brock D'Angelo, at what point did you start to negotiate shipping rates with carriers? I'm curious how much volume you need to be putting out in order to have leverage negotiating. It's been a long time, and so like I don't know that I can give you like the exact steps for you to do, but I can tell you where you want to start is, like, you can basically use there are third party companies that have negotiated rates that they are able to kind of pass on to you. I mean, ShipStation and those places probably like are where I would kind of start. There are a few like aggregators that have already done like a base level negotiation to make sure that you're not just paying rack rates. And so that is where you're going to want to start, is with somebody that's already done negotiating to get you down to, a certain passable level. But like, once you start doing that, then what you need to do is whatever carrier you find yourself shipping mostly of, like when you're using like a already negotiated rate, then you want to go out and you want to start developing a relationship with the sales rep of that carrier, because what's going to happen is, if you get enough volume, that sales rep is going to want to get you off of that kind of negotiated third party rate and bring you internally, because they're going to get in all likelihood more commission if you work with them direct. But that's your leverage point. You say, hey, you've seen like we've grown from nothing to what we are today, and we're using this ShipStation's rate or whatever whatever your aggregator is. And I know there are some good ones out there that I don't have off the top of my head. I would use ChatGPT to help you to find it. But then, like, once you see enough volume going into like one carrier, then you're going to want to use your sales rep and say, like, listen, I'm growing this business, and you've seen we've gone from 0 to X number of packages a day. Tell them your plan for what you're going to do next year and 2 years down the road, like what you're really building building for, and say, I'm looking to develop a relationship. I'm having this conversation with your competitor as well, and you should have that conversation. But like, we've been using you and we really like the service. What can we do? Keep in mind that this is the volume that I intend to grow into. And if if you're really confident in your ability actually to grow, and I've done this a couple of times, but you have to be confident in your ability to grow, you can actually go and negotiate a contract with them that if you're able to actually deliver on that growth, they're going to automatically give you those incentives. And you can structure it in a way that you say, hey, like, you only have to give me these savings if I really hit these targets. But if I hit these targets, I want you to really work with me and give me those savings. That becomes a leverage point. And then, like, unfortunately, you're going to have these conversations every 18 months in my experience, maybe 2 years. But like, realistically, because of their general rate increases and how they do these things, like, they're constantly behind the scenes. Like, you do a contract, and then within a year, you're going to have to come back and have that conversation again. It's a never ending process if you're really serious about this. And so it's something you're constantly going to have to be engaging yourself with, and it's not something you can just give up. But you got to be constantly understanding or studying, like, what are your leverage points, and using those leverage points to get to do the negotiation. One thing that I did early on, and we don't do it anymore because we internalize this all, because we study freight so closely. But there are third-party services that can help you to negotiate for a percentage oftentimes for a percentage of the savings. And if you get to a certain point, that can be helpful, because part of the problem with the freight negotiation is that you don't know what other people in the market are getting. And there's like, you kind of have to be a rocket scientist to understand how freight is really priced, and they do that on purpose. But like, there are so many like multipliers for like rural area surcharge, or commercial versus residential, or oversized fees, and like all these like various fees. Peak handling charges, that's another one. Like, if you're a seasonal company, all of these things are negotiable. But like, how that ultimately flows through to like your dollars, like, is a complicated formula to really understand. And early on, like, you're not going to have the time or the resources to really go out and build out that model yourself. And so using a third-party freight negotiator, when you probably are, if you're spending like $500,000 a year or more on freight, is probably worth it to do, because oftentimes they can save you 20%. Like, the first time I did it, I was able to save 22%, and which is $20 million a year, over $100,000 a year. But then I had to pay them you pay them generally 20% of the savings that you realize. So that's a pretty good trade. And so I think if you got to like that $500,000 or more a year of spend on shipping, then I would probably look at doing that. But before that, I would first just use like find one of these aggregators that passes on their shipping rates to you, and then take a pass at doing the first negotiation yourself, and then use a third-party service. One thing about these contracts is, like, you can always renegotiate them. Like, if you sign a 3-year contract or whatever, that's guaranteeing your freight rates, but like, you have the ability to get out of it with like, at any time, more or less. Like, it's not actually locking you into anything. And so like, you almost never lose in negotiating. But just keep in mind that you do want to build relationships with the carriers, because it is super important, especially if it's core to your business, as it is with us. And so like, you want to negotiate in good faith and be open and honest with them. I mean, I think that that's super key. And I've built great relationships with all the major carriers that we use. And when you have to make changes, it's not fun. And I've actually had to do that in the last year. But it's important to be upfront and honest with everyone about what you're doing, why you're doing it. And that honesty it goes a long way, because you have to think about them as long-term relationships. But that's kind of a high level of how I think about freight. And I hope you're able to put it to use. What's next? John Walker. I understand that Filter Buy was much smaller in 2019 and that you said business was tough. Had the pandemic not occurred and the resulting surge in customers never materialized, how do you think you would have attained escape velocity in your words looking back? Well, I mean, if I'm honest, we had already attained, escape velocity in terms of viability before COVID. I mean, you remember, if I remember correctly, and I do, in 2019, we did about, $75 million of revenue, which is a substantial business. We had already gotten to that point. And that was through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And like, I think that had COVID not happened, we would be slightly smaller than we are today, probably. But like we still would have been growing and, close to our size, probably 75% of where we are today. I think that COVID basically compressed, like, I used to say it compressed, 5 years of growth into a year, more or less. And I think that that was kind of the reality. So like it was like we grew a lot quicker because we had the opportunity, but we were still on that path. Like I'd already set the table for it. It's not like, oh, COVID happened and then you just magically, have this business materialize out of nowhere that you were not that didn't exist before. I mean, it's like, opportunity comes to those who are prepared. I mean, and we were prepared, but we were already on this journey. I mean, the steps we were taking or what we were doing did not change at all. It's just like the only reason why we were able to capitalize on that unique opportunity was because we had already set the stage that allowed us to do that, right? I mean, and so we were in, like, where we were going was inevitable, and I firmly believe would be, basically where we are today. But it just really was an opportunity that we were able to seize to get a leg up a little bit quicker than we would have otherwise. But there's a lot of pain that came with that too, to be honest with you. I mean, like it was, it's definitely it was a painful time, certainly in my life. And I don't regret, going through that pain, but it was definitely a painful way to get where I am today. But we already had, I had already by then spent 8 years building the business, and getting to from zero to $75 million a year. And we were profitable and self-sustaining. But like the COVID was a opportunity that we were prepared for. Meaning that we had already had the bones of this business in place. That was just an opportunity for us to use it to really grow quickly because we were prepared for it. And I think that's the lesson to take from it is like, when you like that opportunity comes to those who are prepared for it. I mean, and you just have to like, opportunities come all the time. I mean, but you can't prepare, like, but you can't know what they are. You have to have a thesis. You have to be working and doing the fundamentals right, and building out your thesis, and through blood, sweat, and tears to kind of grind it. And then every once in a while, you're going to get something that's magic, comes out of nowhere. Like, hey, this is an opportunity, and you're going to be prepared, and you're going to seize it, and that's going to level you up. And then you're going to grind again, and then you find a new opportunity that allows you to level up and do something else. And I see that all the time. COVID was just like a large example that is kind of easy to point to when you're in the indoor air quality world, as I am. But I see it in other aspects of our business. Like you work at something for sometimes years, and then an opportunity pops that makes the whole thing worthwhile. And it's all about planting those seeds. And it's one thing I've thought a lot about recently in my business, like or in Filter Buy, is I've a lot of the things that are really starting to take off this year. Like I look at our retail, look at our business to business segment of our business, and also like our whole new products where we're rolling out cabin air filters and air purifier filters. Each of those projects I've been working on for a minimum of 2.5 years, some of them longer. And just now, each of those are really starting to get to, in the words I oftentimes use, escape velocity, meaning they're starting to be viable in and of themselves. But like any time in the last 2.5 years, I could have said, well, this is a waste of my time, resources, and energy, because like if I look on a financial statement, all they are cost. But the only way that you put yourself in a position to actually seize opportunities and is by planting those seeds and going through that pain, which I think takes a lot longer than most people are used to or prepared for. I mean, like you have to be willing to grind for years to be able to put yourself in a position to get these opportunities oftentimes. And that's just reality. I mean, at least that's my lived reality. Maybe you're luckier than me. But my lived reality is that these things take time. And, I think I've trained myself to, to be prepared for that. But I think that is one of the biggest missing pieces I see in a lot of young entrepreneurs is they want those results in months or in their first year or even first 2 years, and oftentimes like that's just not enough time, to be honest with you. It's it's why I say all the time, but it's really to remind myself as much as it is for you. But I hope that you would internalize this and understand what this actually means. But we all overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade, and it's because big things take time, and what that looks like is a lot of like pain and grinding, and then met with every once in a while you get an opportunity that makes it worthwhile, and then you grind again, and then you get another opportunity that makes it look worthwhile, and you don't always know when it's going to come or what it's going to look like, but that's why you have to set yourself up on a consistent direction that you believe in and are willing to put in the work. And that's basically what I did, and why COVID ended up being good for us. But I could point to a lot of other opportunities and inflection points in aspects of our business that would be comparable. But it just comes from planting the seeds, and then the opportunity comes to those who are prepared, and you got to be prepared. And I focus on being prepared, and the opportunity will come and will take care of itself. Nono Tom 2015. If my goal is to become a millionaire by age 30, is it better to start a company directly after college, or to first go work for an owner of a small business and learn from him in the first few years? Go get experience. I mean, how you get that experience can look a lot of different ways. So whether or not it's going to work for an owner of a small business, it really depends on what you want to do. I don't remember which of the videos that it is. I don't think it's one that's published yet, but I'm talking about this. I talk about this a lot, and so I think if you go through the content we're dropping weekly now, you're really going to get some deep answers to this question. So I would encourage you to do it, because you're the type of person that we're targeting for with this. But I'll give you some highlights now. I do think if you haven't even gone to college yet, even graduated college yet, then you're 20 years old. Let's say you're young. You have time, my friend. Be patient, and don't rush it. And like that is really that has really got to be your starting point. You want to start planting seeds and learning skills that are, when I say planting seeds, I really mean learning the skills and the frameworks that are going to serve you as you get bigger, as you grow, as you get older. Like just as I was talking about in the previous question, that opportunity comes to those who are prepared. This is the time that you really want to prepare, build those skills and that the knowledge, and get the experience that is then ultimately going to give you the insights that you need to go out and build a unique business that suits you, that you really believe in and you deeply understand. And so, I would recommend, finding like one place to kind of follow your passion that I do think makes sense. I don't think following your passion is always good advice, but if you're going to commit to a long-term journey, you want to go and work in an industry that is interesting to you for whatever reason. It doesn't matter why it's interesting to you, but you need to find an industry that is really interesting to you, and go out and working for somebody or a company that is successful in that industry. I highly recommend early on. If you can find a good entrepreneur that is in that industry, I think that's even better, but it doesn't have to be. You want to be able to go out and get experience. So like if you wanted to like if you're really into the plumbing industry, just to take a random one, then I actually wouldn't even go to college, to be honest with you. I would go and work for a plumber and get trained, trained in that trade. And that is one of the, and I would spend 2 years working for a successful plumbing business and just observing, like, what do they do well? What do they not do well? What kind of customers are good customers? What kind of customers are bad customers? How are we getting our customers? Like understand all of these aspects of it while working in that business. And the beauty I love about going out and building a skill early on is that this is your backup plan, right? Like when you're early on, you probably don't have any money, maybe even in debt if you go to college. So you always are worried, like, what is your risk? Well, if you have skills that you can trade for money through having a trade or having a good marketing or a good sales skill. Next week, we're actually doing a video about high income skills that I highly recommend you watch, because I would actually go out and learn one of those first early on. Once you have that, then if you decide later on to go out and start a business, then you really don't have any risk, because like if you go out and you start a business and you fail, your worst case scenario is you're going to go back and you're going to fall back on the skills or the trade that you learned. And that's how you're going to pay your bills and put food on the table. So like if you know that's your worst case scenario, that you have to go back and, like in my example, like work for another plumbing company, but you can still earn enough to pay your bills and feed yourself, then that's not a bad backup plan. I mean, if that's your worst case scenario, then you will survive. But then that allows you to go out and take more risk, like when you're 25 or whatever the time frame is. Whenever you see an opportunity, you can go out and take that risk, and you can do it with the confidence that, hey, if it doesn't work out, you already know you have skills that are valuable, that you're never going to go hungry. I mean, and that is just a great starting point, in my opinion. But then what's going to happen is if you go out and you get that experience in any industry, then you're entrepreneurial minded and you're studying and you're really interested in this stuff, then you're going to see an opportunity. You're going to see something that's going to click. You're going to say, hey, we're not taking, like my company is not taking advantage of this unique opportunity that I see correctly. I can go out and build a business doing this. And when you have that aha moment, they're like, hey, like this would work, and you're 100% convinced in that, then you have the skills and the framework to then go out and attack that unique opportunity that you uniquely found because of your experience. And that's why going out and getting that experience first is so important, because like you're going to find an idea that you really believe in, that other people don't see, that you are then uniquely designed to go out and execute on, because you both believe in it and you have the experience to understand it well enough that you can go out and actually make that work. And then that's going to be the genesis for your business. And then it becomes just a matter of how much ambition do you have? Like, how big do you want to go? Is your first step is going to be go out and build a business around this kind of unique idea that you have, or this unique take on whatever business you decided to go into. And then your first goal is going to make that into a viable enterprise of probably a few $1,000,000 a year of revenue, that you would then have systems in place that are able to keep that business going, whether or not you show up every day or not. Like that's your first goal. Go figure that out. And maybe you can do that by the time you're 30. If you do that by the time you're 30, then you probably have a multi-million-dollar net worth in terms of the value of your business. But that would put you on the path of getting where you want to go if you just followed that kind of two-step plan. But then you say, like, you want, like, what's next? Can you turn that into tens of millions of dollar business? Like, that's going to take a different skill set, different set of systems. But then you can take that early experience and the learnings from going from being a skilled person to building a business around it, and then saying, how do I scale this business? Do I scale geographically? Do I add other services on top of this? Like, there are any number of ways you can ultimately go out and scale. It just is going to be like, what is your ambition, and what are you really looking to do? But if you want to start that step-by-step process, you start by building skills, which means go out and get experience working in an industry, or even in a couple of industries. And then, like, the real the real value, in my opinion, in my experience, and again, talk about this in some videos that are coming, and we're going to really dive deep into it, because there's a lot to unpack in a question like this, and it's something I'm super passionate about. But the real value is ultimately going to come at the intersection of two skills or two domains where you have unique value and expertise. And so, like, just like an example, like if you were a great plumber, and maybe you're not even a great practitioner as a plumber, but you really understand the plumbing business because you worked as a plumber for a while, and you understand like how a local plumbing business works. If you can also like really understand sales, or really have a deep understanding of marketing, or understanding of AI, even to be able to build skills around these things, then the intersection of those two is how you ultimately start to build a business, because that is what is going to give you that kind of unique value that that most of the people you're competing with don't have, because you're going to then have maybe a unique marketing angle that you're designed that you can go out and execute on because of your experience in the plumbing industry, and your marketing experience. Or I have to give high level examples, but you will ultimately go out and find like your unique competitive advantage, and it's going to be at the intersection of like two superpowers that you probably have, that you got to go out. But the way you build those superpowers or learn those superpowers is by experience, and by working in an industry, and by building these and just building your skill set, and getting paid for building that skill set. It's why, like like if you really didn't want to work for somebody else, I would actually recommend being a consultant of some kind, like being like a marketing consultant, or an AI implementation consultant. I think is going to be something that's huge. Like a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, are going to need help implementing AI tools. And if you can, be the person to help them to do that, that's a great way for you to get experience and get paid for that experience early on in a career, that then will ultimately give you the frameworks and experience to go out and build a business yourself, using those skills. And so that would be like another idea that I would think about with that. But anyways, I hope that is I hope that's helpful for you. But I do think that I would encourage you to watch the content now that we're putting out on YouTube long form specifically, and our short form will start to get around better on this theme as time goes on. But really, like where you are in your life is exactly what our content is designed to kind of help you thinking about. And like, I don't like, my goal is not to tell you the step-by-step plan on how to go out and become a millionaire, because I think if I did that, and like, you're not going to follow it, because I can't know your truth. I can't know what you're good at, or what everybody that's watching this is good at, and give you specific advice. What I can do is, I can give you the framework for thinking about it, and then the systems and frameworks for like how to actually scale it as you're going along. And that is what all of my content is designed to do. And anybody from my team that watches this, I hope you understand that, like, that is where that is the whole point for all of the content that we're putting out. But it all starts with getting some experience of your own, and building those skills on your own, that then you can ultimately apply to the systems and frameworks that I'm talking about. And so that would be the starting point, and your experience as a college person. And honestly, you got so much time. Be patient and strategic, and you'll be shocked how far you can go, but you're going to be limited ultimately by your ambition, and that's okay. I mean, not everybody needs to have like super high. Like what success looks like is so different for it's so personalized and different for everybody. So ultimately, you need to figure out what that is for you. But like, you can do anything you want. Like, you can do anything you want from your starting point. You can't do everything, but you can have anything you want. You just have to really decide what that is, and stay consistent and go after it. So I wish you the best of luck, and keep us updated. Okay, Michael, what's next? Do you support dropship beginners in the greater Toronto area? Partner accounts the same, i.e. filter by partner accounts? It's a good question. It is actually something that I've explored a little bit in the past, but we haven't really scaled yet. It's kind of it's something that's in our pipeline. Um, you know, we don't really do external partner accounts currently. We're it's something we're experimenting with, but we don't really have a framework for um, doing it as it stands today. To be honest with you, it's not because I have some like necessarily big problem against it. It's like the my guess, unfortunately, from just based off of your question with dropship is like we don't allow drop shippers to advertise online through Amazon or Google or anything, and it wouldn't make sense for a lot of reasons for you to do that anyways. So like anybody that tries, like rather than like setting them up to fail, we just don't like don't allow it to happen more or less. That kind of traditional partner, no. Where we do want to do where we do engage with partners and something that we're building better infrastructure to do, like we do it on a small level currently, but not well yet, if I'm honest with you. But partners with like property managers and homeowner associations and this kind of stuff, like people that like if you were like able to go out and sign up a homeowner association to on a subscription, that kind of thing, that's the area where we are always looking for partners, and something that I'm going to be working on, or we're internally working on more, building the infrastructure to really scale that. And so like when I think about partners, or like I also think about like commercial HVAC companies that maybe install systems, and but then after they install the system, they're done. But like if we could get them to sign up that customer for a air filter replacement program for us, for instance, that's an area where we're interested in partnership. But it's kind of different than traditional drop shipping, if that makes sense. Because like just being honest with you, like the margins, I mean, like the margins on a air filter are, I mean, it's a commodity product at the end of the day. Like we have a good business because we're completely vertically integrated, and we do everything from um, raw material up to delivering an air filter. And it's a very optimized business model. There's no like really room for like a traditional online drop shipper in that stack. I mean, there's just not margin for it. But for like these other types of partners, as we define them, it's definitely an area that we're looking at growing. And funny enough, in Toronto, I actually plan to be up there within the next month, because we are expanding into Canada in the second half of this year. I've committed to my team. I think we're actually targeting a September opening date, which means I got to get to work. But I'm going to be up there to finalize our distribution center. But we're going to be outside of in the Toronto area, and so I do think we're going to be doing a lot more in Canada. For sure, and there will be partnership opportunities with that if it's something you're really interested in. It's something that we're kind of getting off the ground at the moment, and I'll probably talk about it more if people are interested. So I'll leave it there. What's next, Michael? What was the deciding factor that made you start your business? Um, everybody wants to point to like one moment in all these things, and all these questions. I think, and it's no fault of yours. It's just I'm talking kind of at a high level. I think that people always want that aha moment, and the truth is always way murkier than that. It's like an evolution, and I've talked about it a lot, so I'm not going to bore regular people with it. But it's like I evolved into the business I'm in today, and it's through like a set of like just trial and error and side hustles and experimentation, and then ultimately, like when by the time I kind of came up with this idea or saw this opportunity, then I basically didn't have any choice but to go after it. And I mean, and that's really what I'm trying to encourage people. That's why I'm encouraging people to go out and experiment and get experience, and get experience in an industry, is because what happens is that, you're not going to be in college and sit there and say, oh yes, I'm going to devote my life to building the world's leading indoor air quality company. I mean, I certainly didn't have that aha moment when I was 20 years old. I had no clue, but I knew I wanted to go out and do something and be successful. And so I tried a lot of things and was like trial and error and experimentation and side hustles and working a job. I did all of that, but I was constantly like experimenting and looking for my opportunity. And then I had this unique insight through that experience and through a culmination of trial and error, that I was like, hey, this air filter like direct to consumer business could be very big, and like I want to go all in on that. Like it was just it wasn't even a choice; it was just a calling at that point, right? Because it was something that I had already, that I had so much belief in, and it's because I had tried so many different things, and then I saw some success in this thing, and I was like, oh wow, there's definitely something here. I can make a business out of it, and it fits all of my skill set and my understanding. And that's when I chose to go all in on it. And that's why I encourage people to get out and get experience. That then, when they see an opportunity that they really believe in, then it's not going to be a choice; it's going to be a calling, because you're going to say, "Hey, I've got to go out and do this because I believe in it so much." And then that's when you're going to find success, in my opinion. But you only do that by going out and getting experience and trying things and failing and just kind of experimenting. And there's no shortcut to that. And I think if you're looking for a shortcut for that, you're not going to find it. And so that's why, like, I can help you with the frameworks. Like, once you have that idea, or once you know what's like what your path is going to be, and through my content and through what we intend to build, like I'm here to help you in those frameworks for how to think about it, how to systematize it, how to scale it. Like those are things that are universal. But the kind of idea and the understanding of a business or a market, ultimately, you are going to have to. You're going to have to go out and figure that out yourself. And you do that through experience and through trial and error. And there's no shortcut to that. And that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. But then the rest is the kind of thing that, I think I can help you with the frameworks on. And that is my commitment with this channel and with what I'm, and why I'm out here doing this. So I hope you found that answer to be useful, but but I think that's kind of what you're getting at with your question. Um, okay, Michael, what's next? Random. Do you think the AI bubble will burst? Um, I mean, I think that when you think about AI bubble, I think you're talking about like maybe valuation of AI companies, and that is way above my pay grade. I have no clue about that. Really couldn't care less, to be honest with you. Um, like I prefer to live in the facts, and the facts are that AI is going to is here to stay, and it's not going anywhere. I mean, it's only going to get more powerful and only going to expand. And so I think embracing that is super important. And I mean, like, it's something that I spend, quite frankly, a couple hours a day using and learning, and am constantly talking with my management team about how we are going to use it to make our business better and more efficient. Because I know it's not going anywhere. I know it's only going to get more powerful, and it's worth. And I quite frankly think that if you want to succeed in life in 2025 and beyond, then you have no choice but to really understand and choose to embrace AI, and what that embodies and what it means and where it's going. And that is not going to end. I mean, like, that is only going to accelerate. And I think trying to pretend that it doesn't exist, or that it's overhyped or whatever, is a fool's errand. Like, do I think that there's a lot of people out there making claims that are not consistent with reality? Absolutely. I mean, people are out there marketing, marketing themselves and their companies all the time. I mean, it's like if you believed Elon, as I kind of did 10 years ago, I would have thought you'd be self-driving cars by now, would be everywhere. And, they're still not, they exist, but they're still not, they're still not common yet, but they're still coming. It doesn't mean that they're not coming. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen and change the world. But the time frames that people put on these things oftentimes take a lot longer than they initially articulate when they're selling it, and that's just reality. And that's probably, I mean, that's not probably, that's certainly happening with AI right now. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong or that it's not that is not going to happen. I do believe it's happening, and it's a train. It's a one-way train that you got to get on. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind, and that's just a fact. And so, if that's what you're asking, then I think the sooner you can embrace it and use it as a leverage point for you, the better off you're going to be. Like trying to fight it is a fool's errand that's going to end in pain. But like if you're talking about valuation of AI companies, I have no clue, and it's not the game I play in, not the game I want to play in. I don't have any competitive advantage in that game, and I think that all the pundits or whatever that want to talk about it, they don't have any clue either, and they're just there looking for your clicks and for your money, quite frankly. And so the best course of action would be to ignore them and focus on like real world, which is what I choose to do. And real world is AI is here to stay, and you want to be finding the leverage points for you in your life and your business with it. If you can be if you can be a person that helps with that shift and uses it to be more efficient and uses it to help your business or your company or whatever, or your family be live a better life, then the earlier you are on that process, the better off you're going to be. And so you need to embrace it and not be afraid from it or like worry about it. But like I would turn off the news and kind of not listen to the hype around it. I would just start experimenting and figuring it out for yourself. And that's what I choose to do. Kind of ignore the hype and observe the reality and use it to your advantage wherever possible. So those are my high level thoughts on AI. Okay, Michael, what's next? McFlash, the Bill Gates, at the young Bill Gates, his arrest photo. That's an interesting signal you're sending there. What's the best business to scale to $1 million net profit as quick as possible? This is a function of what you understand and what you're good at. What would be the quickest for me would be very different for you. I mean, like I'm an expert in air filtration in the air filter industry. So for me, with my skill set, my knowledge, it would be that because something I understand super well. I think that this is the problem with social media and like what I'm combating, like as I work to build a personal brand and like what I'm really committed to actually conquering to kind of and changing ultimately is there is no one best business to do that. And I'm guilty, honestly. Like I did a video on 6 boring businesses to make $1 million. Like you can go watch that. Any of those businesses you could do it, but like those are not businesses that I would start if I wanted to go out and do this, execute on this strategy. Is because I think you need to be honest with yourself about about your skill set and your and your experience, and what do you have a unique insight in that gives you a leg up or gives you a competitive advantage to be able to go out and build something that is unique. And then that is going to be the answer for what you're talking about. I mean, like, because you can do this in any business you want. Like there's almost any business you can think of, or any business model you think of, you can grow it to $1 million net annual profit in a reasonable amount of time. Like, I firmly believe that, but your limiting factor is going to be your knowledge and your skill set, and going out and executing on that. And it's like, if you hey, if I said it's pest control, and you've never even thought about a pest control business, and you couldn't care less about pest control, or and you've never thought about business in general, then you're probably going to have a hard time from scratch going out and just doing that. Like, I would say you need to go out and get some experience and study it and work for a pest control company before you go out and you take on that journey. But like, if you are already an expert in the pet control industry, or like you've been working in one for 5 years, and you like, hey, there's like, this is how you would run a good pest control business, then pest control would probably be the best way for you to build $1 million net profit business, right? I mean, like, so you're just asking the wrong question. You gotta be asking yourself, like, what do you know about, like, what industries are you interested in? What have you observed? What have you studied? Like, what are the unique competitive advantages that you have built, that you offer, and then go in and lean into those, because that's how you're going to get the most leverage and the most value, right? And if you don't have answers to those questions, then you got to go out and get experience, so that you can and constantly be asking yourself that question, right? Like, you're the one that's going to determine what industry you're in. Like, you got to be out there observing and constantly thinking about opportunities, and then one day you're going to say, hey, this is something I actually can make work, because I understand it. And then that is where you want to go out and watch, like, my videos, or think about business videos, and say, okay, I've got this idea. Now I've got it up to like some type of working business model. How do I make it better? How do I think about sales? How do I think about my marketing? How do I think about building a team? How do I think about my offer? Like, all of these are tangible. Those are all things that will work in any industry, any business. Like, you obviously, some of them are more important in certain industries than they are in others, but they would work in any business. That's like, but it all starts with, like, okay, what is the business model that you understand, that you can stick with, that you have a unique insight into, because of your experience, and that is where you're going to want to focus. And that can be in anything. It can be truly in anything, but you're going to have to answer that part of the question yourself. Everything else, like, once you answer that, then everything else becomes easy to get to your goal. So, McFlash, that's how I'd answer your question. Okay, one more, Michael, and then I'm done. Miranda, what are your thoughts on the tariffs right now? I have no thoughts on the tariffs, honestly. I couldn't even tell you what was going on with them. If I'm honest with you, there's not as much noise about it. I know that. I'm in a position where tariffs are not super impactful for us. I'll tell you one thing that maybe I shouldn't say, but I will. Like, like, one of the retailers that we work with decided not to do a like air filter line review this year, because they're so overloaded dealing with other categories of tariffs that they have to contend with, because they're having to deal with, like, they're not putting the energy into my category, because they're distracted by other categories that are having to deal with tariffs, and that annoys me. So that's something that I found out in the last week, and so that's a negative. That's a negative for from my perspective. But I mean, that's just an annoyance. I'm just kind of being funny a little bit. But the I don't know. I mean, they don't super affect me. And I'm not smart enough to know how they affect the economy and whatever. I did a whole video on tariffs, just my general thinking about tariffs and manufacturing in general, a month or two ago, and what I think there still remains my kind of high level thoughts on tariffs and manufacturing, I guess. It's something I'm passionate about, and that's why I put out that video. But I'm not day trading tariffs or worrying about it. I'm focused on building my business, and even if I was in a business that was affected by tariffs, I would look at the landscape and then make decisions based off of the cards I was dealt, and that's all you can do. But I don't get emotional about it, and I would suggest you don't either. So that's all I got on it. Anyways, really appreciate you all showing up. I would appreciate if you would hit the like and subscribe button. We did publish a video this morning about how hard work is overrated. I think that I think you'll like it. We really are putting a lot of effort into our long form YouTube right now, and you're going to see that kind of spill over to other platforms over the coming weeks and months. But really committed to adding as much value as humanly possible, and like that is the kind of genesis of all of our videos, is how are we going to offer value to you and give you tangible insights that you can actually go out and do something with. I mean, and that are not just for clickbait at the end of the day, or for or just for show, but something that actually you can find useful and go out and put to work. But that means we're talking about fundamental principles here that are not always easy, and like you're going to have to go out and put in the effort and the work if you want to make them successful. But that is life, and the sooner that you embrace that and understand that, the better off you're going to be, the better life you're going to lead. And that's really what I want people. If I could get people to understand anything, it would be that. But I would appreciate it if you watch the videos we're putting out, and leave us comments, give us feedback. If you like it, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel. Maybe tell a friend. But with that, I will see you next week. I guess that's the week before the 4th of July. Michael has told me he's willing to work on the 4th of July if I want to do a live, and I'm a sucker for consistency. So I think even on the 4th of July, 2 weeks from today, we're still going to go live and keep doing this, because I'm committed to this journey and to figuring it out, and to offering as much value as I can. And I really do feed off of, like, I love getting the questions and kind of seeing what you're all struggling with and thinking about. Hopefully every once in a while you find something that you can put to use and actually make your life better. So with that, hope you have a great week ahead, and I will see you next week.